Welcome to Here's the Deal. I'm Laura Barnes with Leadership Beyond Sport, and today we are talking about the ever elusive, for some, confidence. Today I have an awesome guest joining me who is a PR consultant. Her name is Lisa Slappy, and I'm going to bring her in now. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you here. So, you are a PR consultant. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you do, just sort of the 10,000 foot view.
Yes, I am Lisa Slappy. I'm the founder and owner of Asmus PR, and I'm a communications consultant. And what we do in our public relations firm is we help small businesses and entrepreneurs with their communication strategies, help them get on podcasts, magazines, newsletters, and communicate. And that alone takes confidence.
Absolutely. That's a great segue. So, in the work that you do, and just sort of in your general world, tell me a little bit about what the word confidence means to you and how you convey that to your clients.
Well, confidence means that you trust in what you know and what you do. And it doesn't come easily for everyone. And as a matter of fact, it didn't come easy for me. It takes time to build confidence. And that comes with education, with experience, and with talking with other people like you who also took time to build confidence in your ability and skills and knowledge.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not something that everyone comes by naturally. I certainly didn't possess it, and I actually don't possess it in every area of my life, even still. Like, there's still certain areas that I'm like, I'm not especially confident. Like, if you put me on a rugby field, I would have zero confidence in myself. But you put me in another situation, and it's a totally different story. So I'm sure you've seen that as well with some of your clients and even in your own personal life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because again, everyone doesn't have confidence in everything that they do. I know some people say like they fake the confidence and then when it's over, they just, melt. But I think those experiences in whatever it is you're interested in builds that confidence because confidence also comes from your passion. If you're passionate about something, the confidence comes a little bit easier. And with that comes along the way comes failure and fear, but it's getting over the fear a little at a time, a little at a time. And then what people begin to realize, if I was able to do that, then maybe I can do this. And
Mhm.
then from there, build, maybe I can do this. And for some, it's baby steps. And then there are those people who are like, you know what, I'm just going to jump and land where I land. So it's different for everyone. But working through that fear and working through that failure is it helps build that confidence in you, and then other people see that and they're drawn to you because of
Mhm.
your confidence.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the piece about failure, especially, I mean, obviously we've all failed at something along the lines, right? Nobody's perfect. Nobody sticks to landing 100% of the time. But those failures, it kind of comes down to mindset. How do you choose to look at it? Do you look at it as I fail, I now suck at life and everything's going to fall apart? Or is that an opportunity to say, well, what went wrong? What can I tweak? What can I adjust? How can I change the outcome if I were to do this situation over again? Is that how you would kind of assess that?
Oh yeah, because in the beginning, especially for people who are just, let's say, leaving their parents' home or just
Mhm.
leaving college after you've earned the degree, you've had fun. Now it's like, what's next? And let's say they have their first job and they don't like it or they don't do it well. It's not what they expected as was taught in school.
Mhm.
And they fail or they don't do as well as they thought they would do. And some see that as failure. I see that as, this is an opportunity to figure out what I really want to do, what I'm really passionate about. It's not necessarily failure, it's finding yourself. And even like exams, if you think about exams that we've all taken, I failed an exam before and I studied for it. Then I've taken exams that I didn't study for and I passed. So it goes both ways. But then when you study hard for an exam and you fail, you're like, you know what, maybe I don't belong in this career field. And that's not necessarily the case. What I learned is it was what I was studying, how I was studying, when I was studying. I had to do an assessment. When I went back and studied again and took the exam, I aced it. I had to evaluate and assess myself
Mhm.
and then try it again. Imagine had I given up, I would have continued studying, doing things the same way and not knowing that I was doing it at the wrong time for me.
Right.
So I think those things are important also.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that going back to the career piece, sometimes it's just like we put everything on us. Like I failed, whereas I've been in positions, I've been fired from a job in the past, and I was fired from a job that, and I said this in my exit interview when they fired me. I said, "You never actually trained me how to do the job. All of my training was prefaced with, well, this isn't how we normally do things, but I'm going to teach you this way today because we have to get the job done." And so I came out of that feeling like, on the one hand, yeah, I failed. I didn't meet the expectations of the job. But at the same time, they also failed me. They didn't give me the right training and tools. And so sometimes, especially when we look at those early career situations where you might get fired or you get reprimanded, you have to own your part, right? Like you have to say, okay, this is the thing that I maybe didn't do very well at. Maybe this is an adjustment that I need to make. Maybe I need to do that self-reflection like you talked about. But also, it's not 100% on me all the time. Sometimes,
Absolutely.
yeah, sometimes the organization is at fault. Sometimes another person drops the ball on their end. It doesn't mean you have to blame them, but it's certainly an element of understanding what's yours to own and what you can fix and how you can develop your confidence, and also having the confidence to say, that's not my problem. Like, that's not my fault entirely.
Exactly. And even with that, those failures, I mean, there have been times when I've had someone that has worked for me and they didn't do the job well. And we've had people who have been fired. I've had people when I worked at an institution where if students don't pass their, they have to let them go and go on to do something else. Those experiences built up their confidence, but first their confidence was shattered. Like those who got fired, their confidence was shattered, but they weren't doing the job well, or they weren't doing well in school. But what I found out is that's not what they were supposed to be doing. They eventually figured out what they wanted to do, moved on to do something else, and that was the thing they were supposed to be doing. And I've had them come back to me 2 or 3 years later and say, "Hey, Miss Slappy, you remember me?" And some of them I remember, some of them I don't. And then they would tell me, I was one of those students and I tried everything and I just could not pass. But guess what I'm doing now? I'm an executive chef, or I am a lawyer, I am whatever. They weren't meant to be in communications, but had I just allowed them to continue, they
Yeah.
probably would have been miserable in this arena.
Mhm.
Instead, they said that was one of the best things that happened to me. It really showed me I had to step up my game and really figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it built that confidence for them to go after what they wanted. And they have been successful ever since. And I said, one of the best things is at least you tried it and you figured out what you like and what you don't like and
Yep.
what works for you and what doesn't work. So, and they tell me that helped build their confidence by, their confidence being shattered, but it helped build it up to where it needed to be to go after what they wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so many people, especially young adults who are just getting started in their career, place so much weight on, I have to get it right the first time. And when I work with young adults, especially in career coaching, I always tell them, you're new, you're entry level. Nobody expects you to know it all. You're not the executive, you're not making six figures, you're not making the decisions, you're executing the decisions. So people don't expect you to be perfect, but making those mistakes, being coachable, I think comes into how you develop that confidence, being able to say, like, all right, I screwed that up, like, yep, I dropped the ball, I didn't do it right. But then being able to take the feedback and say, okay, how can I improve, how can I fix that? The coachability factor, I think, is really huge. And having that awareness, that self-awareness of, I'm young, I'm 24, 25, I've had very few jobs and work experiences, so I'm not expected to be perfect at this. And I would also translate that to areas outside of career. If you're 24, 25, you probably haven't had a lot of serious relationships, so you might make some mistakes in a serious relationship. You might not know how to connect or communicate effectively with your partner. You might say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. But hopefully you use those, like we've talked about, as a catalyst for your own learning and growth. And you can develop, and again, develop that confidence to move forward in whatever situation it is.
Yeah, because everyone comes to a relationship, whether it's a work relationship, a personal relationship, a family relationship, with their own frame of reference and their
Mhm.
own experiences before they get to that relationship. And part of this is building the confidence, like you said, to own what you know about yourself and what you don't know. Some of the things that's difficult for younger people and for older people is accepting their flaws,
Mm.
accepting your flaws and working on them. Some flaws, you just can't change. Okay, we're all going to age.
Right.
Sorry, that can't be fixed. That's not gonna that's not gonna change. There's only
Right.
one way. The numbers keep going up,
Yeah.
but
That's why plastic surgeons exist for some people, right?
but the age still doesn't change.
Right.
The age still does not change. But with that should come, more experiences, more opportunities to learn, more opportunities to improve on your flaws. And we all have strengths and weaknesses. And when I say flaws, things that we can work on, things that we can work on that we notice about ourselves that are not true to who they want to be. They want to be better and work on those flaws. And then you have a team to hold you accountable. That too will help build your confidence because you have this team around you. When I do X, make sure you guys point it out to me so that I can see, oh, I didn't realize I did that often.
Yeah.
And then that'll build their confidence before you know it. They're like, you know what? You don't do that as much anymore. It's like, wow, that little things. It doesn't have to be these big, glorious things. We can start with baby steps.
It's really funny that you say that because I, like, growing up as a child, I was super awkward. I think every kid goes through like an awkward phase. I have really big eyes, which now I love. They're one of my favorite features. But as a kid, they were huge. Like they stuck out. It was like I had a nickname Buggy at one point in my life because my eyes just like bugged out. And my cousin, I will never forget this. My cousin said at one point, she's like, "Oh, you have really beautiful eyes," and I would totally deflect. No, I don't. You're just saying that, like. And I would deflect and deflect and deflect. And at one point, I think I was maybe 12 or 13. And she said that to me and I deflected the compliment. And she said, "You really don't know how to take a compliment, do you?" And I went, "Oh, I guess I kind of don't." And there are still times where it's hard for me, but I've developed the confidence of, when people say something nice or kind about me, they don't have to. There's not a
Exactly.
gun to their head that they have to say something nice about me. So having her just call that out when I was in my, formative years, again, it's not something that I always believe. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, you're totally full of it." But I've learned how to at least accept the compliment and say, "Okay, like, thank you." If nothing else, just thank
Yes.
you.
And
And
I
it
think that's important. That's important that you saw that in you, and that comes with growth. You
Mhm.
realized something, and you took that, and it's like, I need to work on that. And another part of that is the confidence of accepting and say, okay, I am beautiful. I am, it's okay the way I look. I love my eyes, which is a great thing, and that's part of who you are. And I think that helps build your confidence. Except, like I said, accepting our flaws, accepting us who we are, and understanding that confidence and self-confidence, you can work on those things slowly but surely. Like I said, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be all in one night or a week. And it's growing over the years, because we have people today who do not like public speaking. Okay. I don't have a fear of public speaking because I'm in the communications arena. Um, it takes a lot for them to build that confidence to stand in front of a group of people and talk. But we also have people who are afraid of like dancing. So
Mhm.
it's like, if that's something that you want to do, okay, let's think about why you don't like to do it. Now let's talk about how we can build the confidence to do that. And that goes back to, well, if I was able to do that, maybe I can do this.
Right.
Starting your own business. It takes a lot of confidence, not arrogance, but confidence to say, I want to strike out on my own and try this thing.
Right.
And if I fail, it'll be my failure. And it may not be a failure. It could just be, I need to make adjustments along the way.
Yeah.
And we have to take, and that fear is another thing that really affects self-confidence. It's like, nope, I will not do it. It's like, and if you walk through that fear and get to the other side, you're like, woo, I did that. Yes, you did. And you
Right.
walk through that failure, I messed this up. Lots of money, or whatever it is you failed at, I got fired. Take those things and say, that wasn't failure, that was a lesson.
Mhm.
Not failure, but a lesson. Flip it around. That
Yeah.
wasn't fear, that was a misunderstanding that I walked through. It was fear, but it was a misunderstanding. I made it to the other side of this misunderstanding and this lesson, and
Yeah.
continue walking forward.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something that made me think of, you talked about fear and you talked about failure, and some people have that innate, just dire fear of failure, as though the world is going to come crashing down around you if you fail, right? Like you're going to suddenly, and you may lose some things in the process, right? Like people are like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my home. I'm going to lose my marriage. I'm going to lose my friends. I'm going to lose my car. I'm going to be the epitome of a country song, like my truck and my dog and
Oh
everything
yeah.
left me, and it's
Oh
going to
yeah.
be terrible. But, so it's that fear of failure that keeps them from making or being willing to make even the smallest mistake. And the smallest mistake could actually just be a minor adjustment, right? You make an adjustment, and what you thought would have been a mistake is actually just an adjustment, getting you a half a degree closer to the right direction. But that fear of failure, I think, keeps so many people from taking even the smallest chance on themselves and trusting in themselves. Again, trust who? Trust you. Like trusting themselves that, like you said, if I overcame that, whatever that was, I can overcome this.
Try
And
the small thing first, because if someone has a strong fear of failure, because we have people that have really like, no, I am going to do this, 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 and this. They have a plan.
Mhm.
But if you have something that's in your heart or in your gut that's saying you're supposed to be doing X and you keep ignoring it, it's going to tear you apart. So you have to like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be doing X. So let me try something simple. Let's say you're supposed to be a cook
Mhm.
because you love to cook. When it comes to family events, when it comes to whatever, you're the cook, and you have a special recipe, and you're at your greatest and your happiest when you cook. But you're in school for something completely different, and cooking is just like you're something to do. But you feel it anytime, you follow the Food Network and all the channels, you follow all of that. So it's what you're supposed to do. But fear, because okay, I can't make money cooking, and how do I get started? Start with something simple. I'm going to start cooking some meals for my friends. They're a safe bunch. I can, they can buy the ingredients, or I can buy, and I'll cook something for them and ask them, okay, what does it taste like? And slowly build. Okay, let me do, I do my family. Okay, now let me do an event for one of the cousins. So you can slowly build while you're still doing your other thing. And before you know it, you're like, I have confidence. I did something for 5 people. They all liked it. And guess what? One of them asked me to cook for their family or their child's birthday or their cousin. And that's 10 people. And
Mhm.
before you know it, your confidence is being built while you're still working on the other thing, until you get enough confidence and know enough to like, you know what, I want to maybe start my own business or catering or food truck or whatever that passion is, because the passion doesn't necessarily go away. And people feel it because they hear it in their brain. You're supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be, and you ignore it, or you feel it in your heart. Your heart gets like, wow, that was a great experience. You
Mhm.
feel it in your gut and you try to ignore it, but your brain keeps telling you, you're supposed to be doing this. And you try to ignore it
Yeah.
because of fear of failure, and get those 2 words out of your head and just put it as, I will learn lessons and I will continue to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that inner voice is like, you're supposed to be doing that. And you're like, well, who am I to do that? Who the heck are you not to do it? Somebody has to do it, right?
Yes.
Somebody
Yes.
has to start that business. Somebody has to cater that party. Somebody has to start their own PR company. Like somebody has to. Why not you?
Why not you? And that inner voice, you can try to silence it. It'll quiet down for a while. It'll, you can kind of push it to the back burner, but after a while, it'll come roaring forward, because
Mhm.
it's what you're supposed to do. And your path is different than your best friend, than your neighbor, than your cousin. It's just different. And
Yeah.
and if you think about all these different people who lack confidence, who've been on television, and they talk about how they have built their confidence. It's like a little at a time. And sometimes they got thrown into something that's like, well, here we go. I'm gonna do the best I can and we'll see what happens. And that was their launch into stardom. Not that everyone wants that, but they didn't just freeze, they just pushed through it.
Yeah, I think I actually heard a story once that Slash has crippling anxiety when it comes to like being on stage, which is why he has crazy long hair, and and you can't see his face because like
Yes.
that's, and he wears sunglasses, like that's his way of overcoming that fear. So he still has the fear, but his passion for the thing that he does, he was like, I got to figure out a way to get over this fear. And I don't know if that's still true today. I don't know if he still has that, but I think I heard that was one of the things that was going on when he first got started in the music industry, and when he first became famous. But So how would you talk to somebody, whether it's a client or somebody that you're mentoring or working with, when it comes to you just sort of touched on it, the people around you who lack confidence in their own lives or who are coming from a place of love when they're saying, oh, well, be careful if you do that because these are all the possible ways that it could go wrong. And they kind of deflate your confidence. How do you help people reconcile and move through that as they're working towards that passion?
I would say your passion outweighs your fear. Your passion outweighs the negative thoughts that you have. Your passion outweighs those negative things those people are saying. Your passion is going to win. Your passion, your passion, your passion. Now get the knowledge to go along with your passion, because people who are passionate about things that they like to do, you'll hear that they'll work, and it's not necessarily work. They'll work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours. Sometimes I get caught up in projects
Mm-hmm.
because I'm passionate about. It's like, oh, I can have this in there. I need to put these in there. I need, it's just in your brain, and it's not necessarily work. Of course, we're working, but you get caught up in it. Just like the
Mm-hmm.
person who wants to, let's say, become an executive chef. They're passionate about cooking, and then they find their niche. It could be Mexican food, it could be Italian food, it could be soul food, and then they focus on that. And what happens is you begin to grow. People begin to want to do business with you. People begin to want your food. People begin to want to do. I want her for my PR, and it could just be a project, or it could be help with their small business.
Mm-hmm.
But your passion drives this. That inner voice, again, you can kind of quiet it down for a minute, but it will come roaring back because it is what you're supposed to be doing. So in the beginning, if you do not make it as a whatever you went to school for or whatever you think you're supposed to be doing, it's okay. There's something else maybe you're supposed to be doing that's natural for you,
Mm-hmm.
but you took it as this is just my hobby when it's probably supposed to be your business.
Yeah, very true. Or again, that kind of ties back to maybe it was just the wrong time for that. Sometimes you try something when you're young and it doesn't work out. So you sort of dismiss it as, well, I guess that's just not what I meant to do. But really what it comes down to is maybe there are just other skills that you need to acquire. Maybe there are other people that you need to have in your network in order to have the support system to be able to do that thing. So if it's still the thing you're feeling called to do, I love that you talk about increasing your knowledge and increasing your skills. Like your passion and your skills, to an extent, do need to align. So, your passion should still be pretty big, but you should have the skills to pretty much match that. So, if the thing that you attempted, let's say you wanted to be a chef, you tried opening a restaurant and it flopped. Okay, great. Like that's totally fine. But what can you do to continue growing your skills, regaining that confidence, because your confidence is probably going to be a little bit deflated if you have a business that goes under.
Oh, yes.
And then who can you talk to? Who can you learn from so that you can try this again in 5 years or 2 years or 6 months or whatever it might be and have a more successful outcome based on more knowledge, more skills, more people in your network who are there supporting you, as opposed to the naysayers and the doomsdayers who are going to say, like, well, 75% of restaurants fail in the first 3 years. Why should you be any different? Because I think, unfortunately, we all have some of those people in our lives. But I love your point about knowledge and skills matching up.
And then you have to drown some of that negativity out. It's okay to acknowledge that. It's like, yep, now let's say that's a fact. Okay, that's a fact. I may be up to 25%, but I'm not worried about that because, like, again, my niche may be different. And what happened 5 years ago, the whole world and country has changed compared to 5 years, now.
Absolutely.
And then 5 years from now, it's going to change. And it could be now is my time because now I do have more knowledge. And maybe I went back to school and I took some business courses. I actually know the business side of the house. And I realized that I shouldn't be focusing on Italian food. I should be focusing on Mexican food because that's my passion. I was trying to serve Italian food. I've
Right.
also joined some organizations that deal with culinary arts of food. So there's some things that a person probably has learned along the way that they didn't have 5 years ago, and then continue to grow their network. Still talk to your family, your friends, and get those leads. Any contest that you could necessarily join. I mean, it's all those things, and you just keep building and building and building. And that's how most of us do. And again, we may fail at something or not do as well. And you have to do the assessment along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That helps build my confidence also, because when I do something well, I was like, okay, so what did I do right with this? Because all the boxes were checked. And then there's sometimes, okay, 3 of the 5 boxes were checked, 2 were not. Okay, what is it I did need to do differently?
Yeah.
So, and then I go back and it's like, oh, I got the confidence and the skills, not arrogance. And sometimes we humble ourselves so much
Mhm.
to a point because we don't want to seem like, I don't want to seem overconfident. But at the same time, you got to find that good balance. And there are times when you have to stand out there and it's like, yes, I'm the one who can do it. I have the skills, I have the knowledge, I have the abilities, I have the connection. So you tell me when you're ready. I'm ready. And it's okay.
Yeah. And honestly, I love what you just said about being overconfident. And I think that sometimes what we think of as, oh my gosh, I'm being overconfident, I'm being arrogant, I'm being egotistical, that may not be at all how it's perceived by someone else. I think of it sort of like a person who has a very soft voice, somebody who's very soft spoken. And I've worked with people in public speaking, in the public speaking realm. And when you give them the feedback of, I could barely hear you. I was sitting at the back of the room and I could barely hear you. And they're like, oh my God, I felt like I was shouting. So to them, they feel like they're just projecting and projecting. And you're sitting at the back of the room being like, I can't, like, what did you say? I didn't catch that. So I think the same can be true for a lot of our qualities. Whether it's a physical attribute or your level of confidence, sometimes you do have to be what you think is overly confident because it just comes across as normal confidence to the rest of the world. But it's just it might be such a stretch. I know there are certain situations that I've been in where I was like, oh my God, this is like so far outside the realm of normal for me. This is such a huge stretch of my skills or my abilities or what I think I'm capable of. And people just accepted it with open arms, like, oh, welcome to the team. I was like, oh, I guess I wasn't
Exactly.
being overly cocky about that. Like, that was accepted very well. Okay.
And I think practice helps with that. With let's say the speaking or the confidence, knowing like whatever situation you're walking into, practice what you want to say, how you want to say it. It'll come out differently no matter what. But at
Mhm.
least practice if you have to pitch something, or if you know, like look, the cooking example, whatever. Practice how you want to present, what you want to say, and then sometimes I've recorded myself and played it back. None of us like to hear ourselves on on a
Very
recorder.
true.
But you need to listen to your tone. You need to listen to, do you speak too fast? Do you need to listen? You need to listen to see, do I sound overconfident or is this the right level? And then I've gone to places where I've walked in as if I knew everyone. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. And it's
Yeah.
okay. I'm just gonna go for it. I go in
Mhm.
there and just lay it down, talk to everybody, be friends. And I may never see these people again. And before you know it, they're like, oh no, I remember you. No, I want the
Yeah.
contact with you, because sometimes you have to go all out, not in a overly confident way, but in a way of being friendly, being polite, shaking hands, talking a little bit about what they want to talk about, explaining a little bit about yourself, and then giving feedback and listening. And one of the things that I like to do is I try to remember things about people, to build those relationships. That helps with the confidence too. Like, know about someone, like so and so has a dog, and her dog name is Missy. And I mean, I
Mhm.
may not see you for 2, 3, 4 months. I'd be like, hey, how's Missy doing? I was like, oh, you remember I had a dog named Missy? I mean, those things help with your confidence, but also the confidence in others to believe that you're genuine in your concern. And then the concern is genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, relationships help to build confidence. The more people you talk to and the more people you share your ideas and your thoughts with, especially the people who are supportive of that. Again, I think a lot of it comes down to community because your family might not be the most supportive. Your close circle of friends may not get it. Like they may not really understand what you're trying to accomplish or how you're going to get there. And they may only see the roadblocks that you're going to come up against. So branching out and having the confidence to say, you know what? This is a thing I'm really passionate about, and this is a thing that I really want to pursue. But the people who are surrounding me are not the people who are going to help me get there. So I need to be surrounded by different people. I need to put
When it
myself in a
comes to that,
different group.
absolutely. Because your family and friends are going to still be there. But when it comes to this new thing you want to do, the confidence circle needs to be different. So when you talk about this new passion, you go to your confidence circle
Mhm.
who understand. Because imagine if we had people who didn't have new inventions, like Amtrak and, just all the things that we take for granted now. Imagine if they had given up,
Right.
because the people like that will never work. You shouldn't, I don't know, you shouldn't do that. And they listen to their inner passion and
Mhm.
slowly build, little at a time. It's like, okay, this part is working, but this isn't, and keep going and going. And your confidence circle may not look like your personal circle, and it
Yeah,
should.
absolutely. I 100% agree. There are things that I talk about with people in my professional networks and, conversations like this. Now, granted, I talk about this stuff all the time. It's the Kool-Aid that I sip. I talk about personal development, growth, all of it. I love it. So I'll talk about it to anybody. But when it comes to growing my business or meeting new people who have similar ideas, I I have a pretty wide ranging network. So I have the people who are in my personal network. They know the intimate details of my life and they support me through those really low lows where I'm like, God, I don't know if I can do this. But those aren't always the same people who are the people I'm going to bounce ideas off of for content or business strategy. And it's really about having a wide variety of people that you can call on for different things. Having, again, the confidence to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Can somebody please help me? And trusting that they've probably been in that same situation and they're willing to pay it forward or repay it forward
Absolutely.
that somebody else paid to them.
Absolutely, because no one has all the answers. And I like what you said about, pay it forward, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I have questions. You've done the research, you read, and you're like, I still don't get how this works. And then the way it works for you, you may have to tweak it compared to the way someone else said because
Yeah.
of your niche, your people you're trying to reach. And it takes confidence to even raise your hand and ask for help. But what I love about small businesses and entrepreneurs and people starting their own businesses or thinking outside the box, they love to help everybody else. If you
Mhm.
say it was like, oh, let me tell you what worked for me. Let me tell you what happened. Or this is a site you can go to. I love that. I
Yeah.
haven't met anyone yet, at least in my circle, that says, I don't know what to tell you. Everyone has offered something. And then we pay it forward and offer it to someone else.
Yeah.
Even the confidence when someone has come to me, it's like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. This one seems pretty rough. I was like, all right, let's talk through it. And before, as they begin to talk through it, and I offer some advice or whatever, and then they begin to think, you know what, I may be able to do it. It may be different than what I was thinking, but I think I can do it now. I say absolutely. And we have a whole team of people. Just let us know. We can do a Zoom call. You can have 10 of us on the phone so we can support you and push you through this, because we want you to succeed. That's what's important in
Yeah.
your way, because you
Yep.
have to be happy. And what success looks like for one person looks completely different for someone else. And it takes confidence to push them towards their success.
Yeah, and that's a huge, huge piece because I mean, I've literally just had this kind of epiphany in the last day or two with my own business that the way I want to structure my business may not look the same as how you want to structure your business. So, or the next person, right? So, a person who's just getting started, who's an entrepreneur, who thinks like, oh, I have to work on my business for 5 hours a day every day, or an hour here and an hour there. An hour here and an hour there is not my work style. It doesn't work for me. So, I have to have the confidence within myself to say, hey, Laura, that's not going to work for you. You're not going to be successful with that. Don't even try it. Find what will work for you. I know I work exceptionally well in like 2 to 4 hour chunks of time. So if I can allocate 2 to 4 hour chunks a few times a week, that's actually better for me and my style than an hour a day over the course of 7 days. But that's
Exactly.
not true for everyone, right?
Exactly. And again, you have to find what works for you, because again, 2 to 4 hours for you, somebody else may need 5 hours, somebody else may need an hour. Some people work better at night. I have people who I'm there to nighttime people. They're like, okay, if you get me from 6 to 10 and they're on the computer, they're doing whatever, sending the emails to be gone out tomorrow. But that's their time frame. And then during the day, they do something else, maybe one or two things, but they have to find out what works best for them.
Yeah.
And their definition of success is different. And some of my night owls, they don't like they're introverts, but they have
Mhm.
their own companies and they're doing fine because they figured it out for them,
Yeah.
for them. And I'm like,
And they had,
absolutely.
yeah, and they had the confidence to say, this is what works for me. This is what I'm going to do.
Yes. And that it took time for that confidence to get there, because of course they were told that, business hours from 8 to 5, and this is when you mostly do business. And I said, but what works for you? Do you
Mhm.
have the skills to do this? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the expertise? Do you have the right people around you to reach out to help you when, like when your client needs A, B, C, D? And the answer was, once they build that up, yes. And they were able to do it the way that they wanted to do it. And everyone doesn't want, Like even people who are going in business, everyone doesn't want a business where you're going to have 3,000 employees and have, big buildings. Everybody doesn't want that. There are some people who want that. There are others who want lifestyle companies. You have to build up the confidence just to get the company to where they want to be so they can live the lifestyle that they choose while helping clients. So we all want something different. And I said success looks different. So does confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have what I call quiet confidence, where they know their stuff. They're not big and boastful about it. They do what they have to do. They speak when they need to speak to people and clients and, public speaking, all that. And then they go back and do what they need to do. But you can go to them and they can tell you how they got there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Lisa, you gave us some amazing advice and some amazing insights tonight. Is there anything else that you want to share about how you develop confidence in your own life? Maybe a story of having overcome that fear? Anything else that you think is important for our listeners and viewers to know about developing confidence, especially as young adults?
Yes. One thing that really sticks out to me about confidence that I had to go through, I was in the United States Army. Hoa, go Army. And one of the things that we had to do when I was in was do what we call a 12-mile road march. And we had to have on all this gear with your backpack and boots and your weapon and everything. And it had to weigh a certain amount of weight. And you had to do the 12-mile road march in a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were 30 seconds over that time, you failed.
Wow.
Yeah, the military doesn't mess around. Right. So if you're a minute over, you failed. If your backpack didn't weigh the weight that it should because you didn't pack it right, like you got to have more than enough weight in there. I can't remember what the pounds were, but so many pounds. And if you didn't, and they weigh it afterwards, not before, they weigh it afterwards. And if your weight wasn't right, you failed. So for one of those, I did fail a road march. I came in like 5 minutes beyond the time. 5 minutes. That's fail. They do not play. So but I like that because it holds you accountable. Mm-hmm. There's a standard. They don't deviate from the standard. So was my confidence shattered? I was like, 5 minutes of my life? You mean really? I failed. So that just wiped out my confidence. I did all this practicing because we practiced throughout the year for this. But I had someone tell me, don't consider this a failure. This is just setting you up for that real road march, the real success that you're going to have. When you do this again, you're going to beat this. So dust myself off, go home, get all upset. And then, you start practicing again in a few months. The next time we had it to do it, I came in 20 minutes under.
There you go. Like you said, that confidence, you bolstered your confidence by seeing the failure as an opportunity to train harder, to train differently,
yes,
to adapt and to make it work for you.
Absolutely. And I made some adjustments along the way with, how I carried a rucksack, when I ran compared to when I walked and, trained. So it was a lot of things that you changed, but that failure was like, I wasn't the only one. It's like 5 minutes, and it stuck with me. That just made an impression on me. 5 minutes of my life, and that means I failed. But once I did it again, I came in 20 minutes under. I was like, oh, look at me. I know how to, and then I became one of the people like, okay, what did you do different? And people would ask questions and we began to talk about it. And the confidence, of course, went through the roof. And from then on, I never failed another one.
There you go. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I greatly appreciate your insight. I think you have amazing things to share in terms of confidence. We will certainly share your company information in the information below this video so people can reach out to you if they are looking for branding, PR, confidence, whatever they need that you are able to provide. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it. And good luck, everyone. Build your confidence. You can do this.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.